And welcome back, everyone, to the Secret Invasion Spoilercast. I'm just going to stick with that name. I can't be asked.
Just using AI.
Also, I literally didn't give it any thought after I said that last week, and so I just stuck with that. And we would not be using AI to figure out a name. I can tell you that.
I'm AI.
You're AI. That's you and Ricardo that are both AI. God damn.
Yeah.
Okay, where's all the real people at?
We are in the Matrix, man. I took the blue pill. I was like, that's this shit.
Oh yeah, what's it got to be like being an AI inside a simulation? That's got to be like bottom barrel, surely.
It's relaxing.
Like, I'm not even real in the real. Goddamn.
It's relaxing. Everything tastes like chicken and no screaming kids. Yeah. So.
Nice.
It's heaven.
It's always a bone. But yeah, no show last week. I had to take my doggy to the vet because he wasn't feeling very well, and then he I got punked by a 9-year-old dog because we got there and he was like, "I'm fine," just like, "What are you doing? You've been like lethargic for 2 days straight, not eating anything, and now all of a sudden you're like, I'm like, okay, we're gonna walk back now." It's like, fine.
Did Ashton Kutcher pop out of the shrubbery and say, "You've been punked"?
I think he did, yeah. The rage in my face was too much to actually like notice.
I really would.
Those goddamn dogs do like that. Dog does everything in its power to embarrass me. I tell you.
I have
the wrong places.
I've had a feeling. I know how that feels. I got 2 kids, so like they have done that before. Unwillingly did that.
Just like God dang, you can never win. But
so
yeah, we are going to be talking about the last 2 episodes, so 2 and 3. Even though I'm struggling to remember the third because I not that I didn't enjoy it. I watched the third one and then watched the first 2 again, and it just completely. I can remember some parts, but like my memory bank just got wiped. I've been sitting there going like, what the hell happened in 3?
Yeah, we can get to that.
Yeah. So I think just overall, like we're now halfway through this show, and I think that's crazy to say. I wish just something was happening. I think that's my main thing. Like
things are happening. It's just it's not happening in a pace that you're in. That you're used to. I think.
I mean, if things are happening, we're gonna walk down a hallway and then talk in a room for 10 minutes for an hour, then. Here's the thing, and I'm not disliking the show. I'm enjoying the dialogue in it. I just wish there was like more.
Well, I mean, but do you ever stop and think? And I've had this problem with people that are younger, where they're used to a certain pace of how things are told, and like you can't get past that. And when a show or a movie does end up being a slow burn, you tend to kind of just like, this is not, you kind of like, I don't know, like you.
I mean, for some things, sure. Is this one of them? I don't necessarily. I don't think so.
Things do happen in the show, and it's just not a fast pace though. That's and you had that same problem with Andor. Andor was not. And I'm not comparing the two, regardless, but like I've heard.
No, because no matter what I say about this show, it's still better than Andor.
I respectfully disagree with that. But this is not Andor Spoilercast. So, I'll wait till
spoilers for season 2 of Andor, by the way.
I'll wait till Jared gets on the show and then we can revisit that conversation. But anyways, I think it's on par with those types of movies that I grew up with about spies. Everything is happening. Things are happening. It's just not. It's happening in a slower pace, And then I think. I think it's more about the dialogue and the acting. Sorry.
I'm not even entirely sure if it is the pacing or not. It's just.
Well, I think it's more about the dialogue. I think the dialogue's pretty sharp in the show.
I enjoyed it. Like I love every conversation. Like episode 3. I know I said I couldn't remember it, but I can remember like the room's fury stops him for 10 minutes at a time. Like the conversation with his wife, loved it. Like Talos loved it. Like everything, I enjoy it. It's just as a whole, it's.
I mean, you in episode 2, not to get past the whole episode, but you do get a nice, shocking reveal by the end of the episode with Nick and his ex-wife. So you things are happening. It's just not happening.
Current wife.
Well,
no ex-wife is going to be like, "Where's the ring?"
Well, I mean, he still loves but
I liked that reveal, by the way, because you can go back to Winter Soldier where you think he's just taking the piss of his whole life. My wife kicked me out. It's like, no, she just legitimately kicked him out. No.
So I mean, there's a lot. I mean, what I loved about the show so far is like there's a lot of subtle callbacks to stuff that's happened. I mean, there's in episode 3, there's a nice conversation between Talos and Fury that really encompasses like Nick Fury in a whole, I think the standout for episode 2 was Olivia Colman. In the short time that she was in that episode, I think that and she is probably one of the best character actors I've ever seen in a long time.
Oh yeah.
Like everything she's in, from like, I don't know, made The Bear recently and this, and like I remember seeing her first time in Broadchurch, and I was like, man, she's a great actress.
Yeah,
she can pull it off.
Fantastic. She won that Oscar for a reason.
Yeah, and she shows it. I mean, like the subtleness of how I think it's scarier. Like that interrogation scene for me was like, it's terrifying, right? Like,
yeah, because she does it with a smile, and you're like,
smile,
oh,
yeah. It's like I've had people yell at me and scream at me and say, hey, this, that, and the other, and it's like that's not really scary because it's kind of cartoony, And I remember when I was in the Army, I had basic training, people yelling at me, and it's like I'm holding back the laughter because I know that this person is. It's like overacting, but with her, it's terrifying because she's doing it with a smile.
She's so nonchalant about, like the way she just walks in and goes snip on that finger. She's so nonchalant about it, and it's like, oh, now that's confirmed. It's just like,
and then the way she talks to him, talks to the Skrull imposter, and it's like she does it with she's like the most confident person in the room, like there's like, and she all does it with like, she doesn't scream, she doesn't yell, she just has like a monotone voice with a proper, proper speaking and stuff like that. And I think that's more scarier than someone yelling at me.
No, definitely. It's just, I don't know. I think a lot of the problem I have is, and it's the age-old argument for these shows. It's the length. Like I appreciate the hour, right? Each one's been an hour. I really appreciate that, but we're halfway through, right? And I think these 6 episodes are kind of, it's a bit limiting. And I know I don't want 20 odd episodes. I don't want that in the slides. I don't even necessarily need 13. But like just.
Well, I mean,
because it feels like it's going to do what, if you're going to criticize these shows, it rushes the back half, right? The back half is always quick, and it's
we
sometimes like avoidably quick. No, we haven't, right? That's what I was kind of getting to, right? Like it's. No, I haven't seen how they handle the back half yet, so I'm going to hold off on that. But that is a concern. I've had that concern before.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take what I do for a living aside and speak as a fan, and I'll agree with you in some respect, But like with some of the shows, they were kind of like, all right, it's really slow. In the middle of the season, it's like, bam, it's like at the, we're already feeling like we're at the end. I don't think you get that with this show for me. I think I kind of appreciate the slow, methodical storytelling because it's like, it gives the dialogue a little room to breathe, and like the conversations.
Oh yeah,
you appreciate the conversations between the characters a little bit more versus like quippy, and stuff like that. And I think episode 3, there's a scene in episode 3 that really, I think, cements it for me. Was the conversation between Talos and Fury in the car?
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah.
That for me, that was like the best because it was like it's like you're going through a timeline, like from Captain Marvel to current, like, and you're looking at Talos and you're like, yeah, I kind of agree with this guy. He did, if it wasn't for us being, and I think Fury, not to skip to episode 3, but it's like,
I mean, just jump around at this point. Like,
yeah,
it's all one blur in my mind.
Well, like, I feel like Fury is the brains, and then like the Skrulls were like the the hands and the feet, if that makes any sense. But like, but I feel like in that conversation, Talos had, I mean, I think even before that, the conversation in the pub, I thought that was a good conversation between two, and like you saw, you kind of see the points of Talos. He's like, you're talking to me like a dog, and I've basically made you who you are, and like he kind of puts Fury in his place. And like not many people have done that, And
I mean, everyone's done that in the last 3 weeks. Every episode he's got to put in his place. Which I think, as a deconstruction of a character, because that's how I'm looking at this show. It is a 100% character piece with the secret. Like, why the Secret Invasion title? And obviously it's the plot, right? But you could have got away with like Nick Fury or something like that. But that's neither here nor there really. But it's definitely. It's more about him than anything else, and I can appreciate the deep dive on that character because he hasn't had a lot over the last 15 years.
He's just the guy that gives the orders, basically, and I think Winter Soldier kind of went into his life a little bit, but it gave a little peek of who he was. But I think this Secret Invasion is like really like, let's open the book. It was kind of like the Hawkeye show where like you kind of get a. Like, it's kind of a payoff in a way, you get a payoff to the character, for, it took him, like 2 decades to get there. But like, we finally get to a point where we're getting to know Nick a little bit better. And to some extent, what made him, like I don't think he appreciates the Skrulls, and he did them dirty though. He has done them dirty. Like, you can understand that he has had a lot on his plate, but like they could have figured something out, like they kind of left him in the lurch, the Skrulls in the lurch, and you kind of get why why they want to do what they want to do.
Yeah, even though I'm still not, I think Gravik's a bit what's the word, overzealous, I suppose.
Don't say one no. I was gonna say like.
Oh no! Well, I mean, in fact, I don't think we've got a lot with Gravik to really call him one. Like, maybe the back half bumps up a bit more, but right now we've got the hey, look, Gravik was here on Captain Marvel, and hey, look, Gravik was here at this point. But there's not really much to him at the minute. Like, they haven't really shown anything. I'll if this is all we get in the next 3 episodes, then sure, I'm going to call him one note because he will be. But if he suddenly gets an episode like next week is literally just Gravik the episode, then cool. I won't call him one note because he'll have a natural character development. But
well,
so far all he's done is kill a couple of thousand people and
kill 2 very important people too.
He hasn't killed Gaia. There's too much. Too much wrong with that scene.
I mean, she did turn into a Skrull.
She did, but the blood stayed red. It didn't go purple.
I guess we'll see.
Which is interesting. This is why I don't believe it, right? Because you go back to the scene where Olivia Colman cuts the finger off. The second it turns green, the blood turns purple as well. Like she turned green in that, but the blood stayed red.
Plus,
it was like 10 minutes before she's like, "I'm a really good liar." So.
Well, plus, like, and on top of that is like, it might be just me, because I watched it kind of late at night. You don't exactly see where he shot her at, it's it was in the chest.
It's in the chest, yeah.
I mean, physiology of Skrulls might be different from humans,
there's nothing to say that she didn't just do the Super Skrull stuff, like, 10 minutes before, like.
How do you like that kind of reveal?
I mean, it had to be here at some point, right? Like, it had to be
But
you know, if you're gonna have the Skrulls, the Super Skrulls is kind of like
Yeah.
an end point, right? Like you have to have them in eventually. My biggest concern right now is that this show exists just to have that.
I mean, sure, you could set up the existence of these characters, like how they can do. I mean, you got to do it at some point, you know. Like
yeah. You know, I'm not going to be one of those people where it's a case of like, oh, they've done this because they haven't got the Fantastic Four. It's like, well, they do, but obviously they're not introduced yet. Sure, they could have held off, but at the same time, that's just one Super Skrull, right? Like in the comics, there's more variations of them that do have different powers and stuff. So like, relax.
Well, plus, me personally, like it's like the show is doing something with what they have. So like, you know.
Yeah,
they're taking
there's clearly thought gone into it, right? It's like we want something that's gonna mimic slightly the Super Skrull everyone knows, but at the same time, it's like how can we mimic it? It's like, cool, we've got this little Frost Beast thread hanging over here that literally everyone forgot about. Cool, Extremis is nice to have that back in some capacity. Like, hey, everyone's wondering what was going on with the Cull Obsidian arm. Cool, well the Skrulls have it. I appreciate what they've done with that.
I like the Extremis thing because that has been kind of sprinkled throughout the MCU and not really have done anything with it, you know, so far. You know, like it's been like you get a quick shot of a Extremis soldier, you know, be fighting someone in Blackwood or Shang-Chi, and then you know, I like the fact that got brought back. You know, I you know, that was probably one of my favorite parts of Part 3 of Iron Man. If you don't like it, you can talk to me in the comments. But like,
Iron Man 3 is like the second best Iron Man movie. Like,
it's got some substance, you know, versus like, you know, like I don't hate 2 as much as everybody else.
I've always liked 2. I've always been on record of liking 2, even with the Elon Musk cameo. I like Iron Man 2.
that aside, yes. I mean,
we can skip that one frame where he's in it. Like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the biggest quip with people that have the thing that is the biggest contention of that movie is like it's inevitable. It had to happen regardless of where it was. It just was Iron Man 2 is where that started because you had to build the universe, you know, like you had to introduce these characters.
Though I always found that a weird thing people complained about. Because I never found that the movie, like, sure that the movie, you know, it has a lot of Easter eggs and stuff for world building, but it's not the plot. And I never understood why people say like, "Oh, it's just a world build." Like, really? Like, it has its own plot. Like, it's very central to Tony Stark, that entire thing. But
in the 45 years of my existence on this earth, I find one thing inevitable: people complain about everything for any reason. You know, there's no.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah.
It's just not. I don't even. I try not to even think about it. You know, like it's. Not to get on a tangent about that, it's just like I don't even pay attention to people anymore because like they're going to complain about it, whatever it is. There's going to be a complaint. There's going to be a funny quip about it, and I don't know, Facebook or something like that. You know, I could care less anymore. You know, I if I enjoyed it, then fine. You know, I don't care. You know, but
also going back to the whole Gaia thing quickly. I know it's. A thing Marvel likes to do, but there's scenes in that trailer or the trailers that she hasn't had yet, and unless they just totally cut them out because we're gonna kill her off, I just don't buy it. I think it's I don't know. I don't know if it's just the show itself, but I just don't buy that.
Well, that's the one thing I like about the show is like it creates the doubt, right? You know, people are talking about like whether this is real or not. You know. And that's what you want in like your spy thrillers is like no one's safe, you know, like and if someone gets killed on screen, you know, like you want the audience to kind of second guess whether it's is or not that, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's just I would find it interesting to do that, you know, it would be interesting to have a very prolific actress just come in and do this and then like just kill her off. It shows like the no one's safe in this show, you know.
No. No, so there is the whole thing of like, you know, it's a Skrull. You can have the actress be killed off, but the character stay around and just have a new shell, right? Like, it's not necessarily an end point for that character, but I know I think if this ends and you know both thought either Maria Hill and Gaia aren't alive. I'd find that really weird. Because I'm still not entirely sure how I feel about killing Maria Hill off in the first episode. That to me just came out of nowhere, and it's like, cool, yeah, we could get rid of her now. We're moving on. It's like, huh?
I don't know. I don't think that was. If that was the case, I don't think that's the point of the people writing. I think for me, it's just like, oh, that's really shocking. That's extremely shocking to see a character that you've known and loved just get. I would say unceremoniously.
I think that's the problem, right? You know, it's I like Kobe Smulders. I liked her in the 5 seconds she's had as Maria Hill in the entire thing. I think that's why it feels weird, right? Because like there's no shock value there because you're not really attached to this character. Like there's nothing really you know. Like I liked her and the idea of her in the role. I wanted to see more of her. Like just to kill her off suddenly. Like it feels. I don't know. It just doesn't. It didn't.
But isn't the talk of whether or not she's dead or not the sign that people actually care about this character? Or
I mean, upset? Sure, but at the same time, not that I'm really thinking about it, but I find it slightly funny and ironic with this show. The whole point of Secret Invasion is who's a Skrull, right? But everyone's kind of settled on Rhodey being a Skrull, and for good reason, I might add. The man's not walking around with those leg braces. Like they could obviously, be under the suit and be smaller. But
there's also the voice of the on the other end of that line that was talking to the ex-wife. You know, like that's I mean, it could be a red herring. Who knows? We don't know the context of that conversation. You know, we just know that she is talking to. We know she's talking to Grody. That's for sure. You know,
but it's just I just find it funny that everyone's decided that yes, Rhodey's the Skrull, but the main conversation of the series about green shape-shifting aliens invading the planet is are these two women alive or dead or not? I don't know if I'm not entirely sure how to take it. Like, is that I'm going to use a word here. I don't necessarily mean it. Is that a failing of the show for how they're handling the invasion concept as a whole, or is that just a case of people are in denial about these two characters being dead? And it's just like,
I mean, could it? And I'm not being rug. I don't want to be like come off as a-hole, but could it be a failing of the people understanding?
I mean, sure. I just find it funny that the main conversation that at least I've seen is there's no way these two characters are dead, but Rhodey's definitely the Skrull moving on.
But I mean, like, that shows that that some people care about this character just a little bit.
I mean, sure. I mean, I was purely saying more for Maria Hill. Like for me, like I'm not.
Yeah. But I mean,
I didn't get what they wanted out of my reaction from Maria Hill because I'm just like, there's no way.
I would say that they would want to give you the feeling that nobody's safe on the show. You know, like.
I mean, sure, 100%. I agree that would be what their intention would be. 100%. I mean, sure, like it has the thing of like if those two are specifically dead, then it's like no one is safe on this show.
I think. I mean, we should start a pool on that. I won't.
In this economy, I can't afford that. No. I've already got a £1 bet with someone about a Final Fantasy VII remake. I can't afford any more bets. No.
But man, I heard an interesting theory from somebody. It was really interesting that like Talos was actually big bad at the end of the season. That like he was.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised now that you said it. It's not something I've thought about it. I honestly wouldn't be surprised. It feels. I don't know. It feels right a little bit.
Kind of on point too, right? Like I mean, I can feel that those conversations that he had with Fury in the pub and in the car were genuine.
He's just gotten so disenfranchised with Fury and humans as a whole. He's like, you know what?
Yeah, and I feel like the conversations with Gravik was kind of like more pointed at like his safety of his daughter versus like I thought humans were brought up in the conversations only to keep that maybe the facade up. I don't know, but like it would be very interesting to see that that he turned out to be the actual person that, orchestrated this whole thing, because it's, I mean, it happens when people are disenfranchised, like they end up, your allies end up being enemies sometimes, so it's like, it would be
very topical.
Yeah, it's true. But that would be interesting if it turned out to be the case. Yeah,
no, I'd like that if it was actually Talos. It depends how they did it, because it's like, well, how did you? Well, actually, because at that point it's like, well, his daughter can't be dead. Like the wife and kid can't be dead. Like, that's because then why would he ever go back with Gravik and all this and that? Unless
I feel like if that was going to be the case, I feel like Gravik is more of a puppet versus like the actual conspirator. Like he knows. We know that Gravik had a beef at the very beginning when he was introduced, and that when he was brought in. I think that I don't know if it was the first episode or the second episode, but when they brought a young Gravik into the circle, he really kind of came off as being like antisocial and like
he was very
So it would be interesting to see how he can manipulate Gravik into doing all this stuff. And it's not hard when people have a chip on their shoulder. It's like, it's just a couple words, man, and like next thing you know, you're doing something that you aren't, you didn't think you were going to do. But I don't know, that would be interesting. It all kind of,
agree. It depends how it's handled, but no, I agree.
Yeah.
Because at the minute it's already Talos' fault, right? There's a million Skrulls on the damn planet, and it's purely because he just like, hey, come here.
Well, I find it hard to believe that Talos didn't know that Fury was in the satellite, and he could.
He knew.
How could he not communicate with him? They obviously had some type of communication with him at one point.
Yeah, because it's Talos that calls him back, isn't it, to start this?
Yeah, and like it just, I don't know. It just kind of.
He made a conscious choice not to tell him. Like, as the conversation with him and Fury in the train, like he didn't tell him because he didn't want him to know.
Well, that, and he's like, I think deep down inside he's like, I think Gravik might be right, because like you promised me this, I've done all this for you, and you've done nothing really for me. That's how I looked at it. It was just like, I think those especially a conversation in the car where he's just laying out Fury's timeline. And he's like, what were you before I met you? You met me. You were just, and like, I love the Fury's like answer. It was like, I was ascending the ranks. He's like, you weren't ascending anything until I got, me and my people got involved.
Which is, there's an interesting conversation we had, because I've seen a lot of people go, oh, they're just wiping away everything Fury's done. Like, they're not. But at the same time, it's like, that's from Talos' perspective. Talos doesn't know what Fury was doing beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, he very well could have been ascending the ranks. And obviously, I assume he was, because after all, it is Fury, right? Like, but
maybe that situation in Captain Marvel unlocked something in Fury's personality that wasn't there. And like, you kind of see it at the end of Captain Marvel. If you watch that movie and you see from beginning to end the character that was introduced at the beginning, and then you see the character at the end, those aren't the same characters. Like, one character is goofy as heck, and like he's serious, he's tough, I'm sure, but he's not as serious he was until that very end, and that end credits where he's like putting on the eye patch and he's becoming the Fury that we start knowing, and I think, and it's true, like if it wasn't for, Talos and his people, how can you get all that information on those people? That's a lot. I think, they built the foundation for Shield, of of the reputation of Shield and Fury. And like, to have him basically say, yeah, we're going to get you that planet, don't worry, but you need to do this for me. And then, it just kind of gets into that every time, he puts it off. And then the blip happens. And then nothing gets done. Like I would say, like once Avengers moved, the first Avengers happens, Fury has a lot on his plate after that.
Yeah.
So it probably was hard for him to kind of like, but he had all that time between the first Captain Marvel up to that point, and I feel like he just kind of dragged.
It's also a failing on her part as well, right? Like we don't know exactly what she's been doing for the last 30 odd years, but it'd be nice to know where, like, because I always assume if you're gonna have someone show up and it's gonna be her.
Yeah. Well, I
think she will, but if anyone's
I 100% agree with you on that. I think this is more of the character perspective of Fury. He's like.
Oh yeah, but it's one.
Yeah, she's part of the blame for sure.
Yeah, because she's the one they went off with. So what happened there?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously something happened because Talos mentions there's the empirical colony.
Yeah.
He's like, there's some stayed there, the rest who didn't have all come here and all that. So, like, did that exist before Captain Marvel, or is that something that's come up afterwards? There's a lot that.
There's a lot of middle. There's a lot of blanks.
And I get it. Kind of goes back to the being 6 episodes thing. There's so much you could dive into in here, and I think that needs to be done. Obviously, you can dive into it in other places, but it's not Captain Marvel because we know what that movie's about. I think the last episode they might be slightly longer than a lot. I think that it might be the hour and 15-minute timer. I'm not saying like it's gonna be all that, but I think it
just feels like
it's. I guess I'm kind of hoping it's not a one and done. I think Secret Invasion might need a second season.
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, like this could be setting up something for.
I mean, I assume it is, because they've all done it before, going forward, or all the other previous shows have set something up. So this is obviously, outside of Super Skrull, or that whole concept. Like, it's obviously something else that's got to come from this. But
I mean, I think it's Skrull. I think the dynamic, how the Skrulls are being. I have a feeling the way Fury and whoever knows about the Skrulls, the way they look at them, and the dynamic of that race is going to be, I think, drastically changed after this show. I think this is where you're going to get this kind of the Skrulls that we come, the comic version of that.
The ones that everyone wanted in Captain Marvel.
We're like we all like. I don't think anybody realizes how advanced the Skrulls really are, though. They are.
No.
I mean, it doesn't really show the gravity.
I mean, they got memory pods and they're DNA splicing, like they're doing all this crazy stuff. Like, what the hell?
From the perspective of a person that just watched Captain Marvel, you don't really get an idea of how advanced they really are. And think about this though. Like, when you ever notice that little diamond thing, that like purple diamond thing that's in their shoulders, that use like if you've seen the first Captain Marvel when they're coming from the beach and like he's changing, right? Like, the clothes go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So that little, we don't have that for sure. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the landscape of that race is after this show, because they can't be good guys after this. Like, they just can't. Like, they can't be looked at as good guys, and that's gonna hurt Fury too, because that was his network. That's how he got his things.
I say it's. I enjoy how they've taken the concept of Secret Invasion and like not shrunk it down, but they made it the core of it a more personal story. Like Secret Invasion in the comics, whatever. Like Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it was alright.
Yeah.
But like, they had an opportunity to do something different, and obviously they've taken it. And I can appreciate how it's gone here, but part of me also thinks, what would this have been like?
As a phase or something like that?
Yeah. Maybe not a phase, right? Because I think if you make it that long, you might get bogged down in like how long things take. Like you couldn't have had the Infinity Saga be Secret Invasion, right? You can't go that long with this concept. I think it's just too much. But like maybe like a year of things was just Secret Invasion, and it culminates in something, right? But
yeah, I think the only issue I have so far is like I think they should have seeded this a lot sooner in the movies and stuff like that. Like they should have kind of seeded this series a little bit more sooner. Like they should have like kind of, you know, they should have had the news guy on the other movies or TV shows to kind of give, like, because like some of that stuff, some of those people just kind of nowhere, like.
Oh yeah, because even though I really like that, because it's like the whole the Daredevil news guy, the FXN news, like I really like the people going like, oh, Daredevil's not canon. Like my guy, they've literally just taken something made for that show and brought it into this. Like they're not stripping the Netflix stuff in the slightest. Like they're actively using all of it.
They're cherry picking. I mean, look, you can't use everything that came from it. It just would. I don't think you're using things that could fit into this universe. Like it's just how it is, like we're not going to get like people just got to just kind of come to terms with it. Like all that stuff is, you can't translate it verbatim. It just doesn't make sense sometimes, and like, people should be really used to the fact that the MCU cherry pick stuff that work and bring it over, I don't know. I mean, you could have the show. You can have the former, the showrunner come out for the TV show and say, "Yeah, it's canon." People will still be saying it's not canon, so it's not.
But then you get someone from the crew who's like, "Oh yeah, they don't want it to be anything like it." Now, of course, everyone's going to be using that as an argument for the reason why they don't like it. It's just like, okay,
anything to further someone's argument would help, right? I love Chris Brewster. He's a great stuntman, but like. The minute I knew that I seen that article, I was like, I'm sure people are going to be like puking this up.
This is going to go well.
They're going to be like parroting this feed into Facebook. It's like, it's like that's someone's opinion. That's what it is. Like it's a valid opinion because it's his opinion, but it's not.
So it's just incredibly ironic that he says that, and then it's like, hey, here's the news guy we used.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. That something like that should have been, unless I'm completely forgetting something like that. That should have been in there before to really connect it. But even then, I
think the Skrull thing could have been sprinkled throughout the the MCU a little bit, more. Just to kind of set up, like, foreshadow the show, a little bit more, like, I mean, I'm not a writer and I don't pretend to be, or a developer or anything like that, but like, an idea of having Skrulls impersonate other people. I mean, they could have had.
Sure, you had like Far From Home, and you had Talos and his wife be Fury and Maria Hill.
I think it needed a little bit more. I think it needed a little bit more.
Like you needed to see like Emilia Clarke or Gravik, like actually.
Not even that. Just a Skrull, impersonating.
Sure, yeah.
It's something, it doesn't necessarily need to be like any character particular, but I think that. I mean, you could have had something as small as a headline in a paper that someone was reading,
True, yeah.
Something to foreshadow the show, like if you knew you were developing a show like this, like years ago, then you should have been kind of. I mean, no, they don't, like sprinkle out. Like this is a big storyline, it's a big.
Yeah.
I mean, even the show is still a big thing because it's like you're talking about aliens impersonating government officials, like that doesn't happen overnight, like that should have been like, I don't, it's just as simple as like I said, having a headline saying green alien and spotted in Washington. I don't know, something to that effect, or I think it just needs that a little
or even just like people acting out of character slightly.
Yeah, I
Just,
mean,
just a slight mistake every now and then. Like, obviously, people would have gone like, "Oh, why are you doing that?" And then you know, pie in your face like 6 months later on, like, this is why that happened. But like stuff like that would have been really cool. But
yeah, you know, like if it is true that Rhodey is a Skrull, the next time you see him in Captain America, what I'm saying, like when he was in Captain America and Winter Soldier, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier, he could have. I mean, he kind of was out of character in that show. I mean, I guess you could kind of fudge it, but like, just kind of, you know.
I don't think you saw enough of him in
Yeah.
Falcon and Winter Soldier purely because that was a 5-minute cameo, if that. Like,
but I mean, in that 5-minute cameo, he could have done. It could have been just little quirks that
true.
You know that Rhodey doesn't do. You know, just a twit. I don't know. You know,
like threatened to carpet bomb Slovakia. Very out of character, Rhodey. Very out of character.
Something, yeah. But I mean,
no, she would deserved it because that was the most condescending face I've ever seen on TV. I'm on Rhodey's side, but very on Rhodes like.
But I mean, yeah, like that's a butterface over there or something. I don't know. You know, something. You know, I don't know. But like, you know, it could have been. I'm not gonna say done better because I don't want to say that because it's not. But like, it could have been more foreshadowed a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I haven't got a problem with it not being foreshadowing, right? Because then at the same, on the flip side of everything, right, it makes it a bit more like you got more tension there because like, hey, they are just that good at impersonating everyone. Bang, you didn't even know it's happening. You're in the shoes of Fury and everyone else, right? Like, so it can work either way. Like, it would have been nice, but at the same time, I'm fine with it.
I mean, like it's fine, but it would have been the cherry on top if they would have done a little bit of, you know, like, you know, seasoning to these, you know, this arc that's, you know, this show that's coming, you know? Like, especially when you know you're developing a show about Skrulls. I mean, that kind of writes itself sometimes, you know, because like they're shapeshifters, you know. You can literally just have a character's act out of character just a little bit, and then that's it. You don't even have to turn into a Skrull, you know, or whatever, you know. It's just little quirks, you know, that could, you know, be foreshadowing. But I mean, that's neither here nor there, you know. It still doesn't detract from how I enjoy the show. But
no,
you know.
And so I am enjoying it. Like, it's, you know, I would have dropped it if I wasn't. Quite frankly, I'm at that point now where I don't want to waste my time with something I don't enjoy. But
I think for me, my favorite parts are, I mean, of course, Olivia Colman, like she's
100%.
She's treasure, you know. But like, I think the dynamic between Fury and Talos is like the center of this whole thing, you know. Like it's like they're old friends, but they like, you know how old friends like talk crap all the time to each other, but like, I don't know, there's a hint of truth in how Talos talks, you know. So like he's a little.
I mean, they're both telling the truth. It's just different perspective, isn't it? Like, there's no.
And like
communication is key, and they have not been communicating for 30 odd years.
But I think Fury has a little curmudgeon in him, though. He's kind of like, I don't want to admit. Yeah, he's definitely a curmudgeon. Yeah, he's Harrison Ford's level on that. Yeah, and talking about Star Wars, but but I think that's good for the character, because that's, you know, up at this point you just see the calm, cool Fury that walks in slow mo. You know, now you're getting the guy that has to sit on a bench for a couple minutes to take a breath. You know, after, you know.
I still think it's an act.
No, I think it's an act in some ways. But I think that there is a hint of truth to some of it. I think he is. I mean, he's, how old is Samuel L. Jackson?
Sam Jackson's like in his 70s.
Yeah, you know, and you would expect that the character's probably in that same age range too, you know, and like
probably, yeah.
You know, I think I had this thing where, like, when I'm watching Talos and him talk, it's like watching The Odd Couple on TV. You know, like they're almost like Oscar and Felix talking, you know, in a Marvel Cinematic Universe show. You know?
They are chalk and cheese.
Until that turn, of course. If the turn comes, man, like it's gonna be more.
I say something's gonna happen. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a case of like, hey, Talos has been holding Rhodey like in one of those pods for years, and that's what really kicks everything off.
Yeah.
No, because who says it's Talos at times? Maybe it's Fury, and that's the exciting instant for Talos to go to Gravik. Like,
I mean, Fury is rogue, man. So he's off the reservation, or retired, as he would say. I'm retired.
Yeah.
That's quite a retirement, but yeah,
retiring off into the space station with a bunch of green people. Like, yeah. So,
yeah, but like that, I guess. I mean, I guess that would be kind of isolating too. You know, like I started watching Black Mirror recently, the latest season. That first episode of Black Mirror with Aaron Paul. It's about space and stuff like that, and you can see like the being isolated in space has got to be really, really take a toll on your mental, stability.
Oh yeah, yeah. But he's not. Well, I suppose you could, just because he's with people doesn't mean he's not alone.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's not with the humans. Like, and not to say that the Skrulls are.
So that sounds fantastic. Like, not being with people.
Yeah. As an introvert, yes, that is.
Beam me up, please.
Yeah.
Taylor, come on, do something.
I mean, just beam up the ex-wife. I mean, like, it's got to be.
I mean, that's one way to start a war, right? No.
Yeah, but yeah, I hope the next episode goes into Gravik's past a little bit more. I think
I'd like that. Do you know what I'd like? And there's a built-in mechanism for this. Give me a memory gauntlet. Win me back over. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Give me a memory gauntlet. We haven't had one since Moon Knight Marvel. Come on.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on.
But
so Miss Marvel had an asterisk one, but it wasn't a proper memory gauntlet. It wasn't her memories. No.
Her memory. I would definitely like. He almost won me over with that conversation in the museum with Talos. Like that conversation was.
That was a good. I enjoyed that. That was very.
But
well
I mean,
done.
but if you take that episode and just give it more context, a little bit, like why is he so angry? Well, what's? I mean, we know why he's angry, sure, but like, what's?
It's a very thin motivation right now. It needs to.
Yeah.
Needs some meat on that bone.
And is the motivation true? Is it more like I want to be this, or am I doing it for the people? Because I don't necessarily believe that he's like the Captain America of the Skrulls, right? He's not trying to do it for the greater good. I think he's definitely got ulterior motives, and like I would mind seeing. I don't know, like like you can do the memory gauntlet, where he's just jumping around from when he got pulled into the Skrull commune the first time to
like they capture him or something, and Talos has one of those pods and he puts him in there and he has like a little look and Fury sees everything. Like, do that.
Why does he really hate humans? Why does he hate music? Like all that stuff. Like I mean, you could even see if the Talos turns out to be true or whatever. You can kind of see some of that into that background. Memory gauntlet episode.
Yeah. Okay.
It's I think by the next two episodes things should have to pick up.
I'd hope so.
Yeah.
I don't think the show can go on for 2 more weeks at this pace and then try and literally run through an hour. That's brave.
Something's gonna happen to Dilbert Mulroney, president. Like he's not sticking around for a long time. Like,
that's. It's not an inherent problem with the show, right? It's more just the structure of how this whole franchise is done, because the way it is, I think we spoke about it before. Like, you got the Marvels coming out. We know Fury's in that. Obviously, is it Fury? I don't know. They're on that space station where the Skrulls were. So is that before or after this?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the president's not Harrison Ford, so therefore it's here in timeline stuff.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I was talking with somebody, and I would love that scene of Harrison Ford taking place of the Norman Osborn, where he takes out the Skrulls, and like I would love that Harrison Ford shot of him just sticking a pole into the Skrulls, and that's how he becomes president or something. Like he takes out. I don't think you're not going to get a Harrison Ford cameo in this. I don't.
Unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. The more Harrison Ford, the better, to be honest. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's a hat, but he's
whether he's pink or red, either way, give me more Harrison Ford.
Super nice guy. I met him one time. When I saw the Dial of Destiny while John Williams was scoring it,
Nice.
and he was there. Shook his hand. Nice guy. Just don't talk about Star Wars because he's.
See, Harrison Ford's one of those. That everyone's got their list of like who you have a beer with and stuff like that. Like Harrison Ford, always just he's intriguing. It's like, why is this grumpiness an act? Like what's going on?
I think it's more of like he's definitely not up on the Star Wars thing. But he loves Indiana Jones. If you talk Indiana Jones, I saw him talking with.
But you say that he was on I can't remember the guy's name. I saw it on Twitter. Right? Like I think it's Conan O'Brien. No, Conan O'Brien. He was on TV, but he's now doing a podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's Conan O'Brien. And like Ford notices that he's got Han Solo written down in his notes. It's like you couldn't remember that, and like Ford looked like genuinely like annoyed at how little like this guy he like researched him and like even knew of anything. It's like, how did you not know Han Solo? And like he's going off like, oh, I didn't think you were that great, I liked everyone else, and like he just looked like he really pissed Ford. Like he cares a little bit about Star Wars. Like he's not,
I can safely say like that's probably 50% act. I think he's over. I think he knows that people think he's like curmudgeon old, the Up guy from from Up.
He literally is the guy from Up, yeah.
But I've known people that work with him. Seems like he's a pleasant guy. He's just, he's old. He's gonna have strong opinions. And
he's very much a boomer.
Yeah, but he's
not getting around that.
The guy told me it's like 50% act now. I think he's in on the joke half the time. So, I mean,
and it's only 50% because it's just unironically become his personality. He started doing that.
Yeah. I mean, default personality. So like,
he fell into the trap where you'll fall into and you try and be ironic, and then
it's like people say it saying that for years about how his attitude is. Like, yeah, okay, I'll go ahead and do that. That's what you want. I can give you it. But
I'm not a grumpy old guy, but I might. If you want me to be, then I'll be the grumpy old guy. Let's go.
But I don't think that present's gonna last very long. The minute they cast, no disrespect for Dillard Maroney, or is it Maroney?
Oh, I can't remember.
It
just shows you how long people know he's going to stick around for. It's like, your days are numbered to, I assume, 3 episodes. I assume you've got at least 3 weeks left as the president.
Well, there's the age old, like, is it Dillard Maroney or Maroney? Like there's two guys that are very similar, look exactly alike, have different names, but you don't. He's not going to stick around. He's not going to be president, obviously. So R.I.P. President. What's his name? I think
his face.
Yeah, I think that was on his like campaign trail.
Vote for who's his face.
But
all right. Yeah. So that's gonna bring us an end to this week. You got I wasn't planning on this being nearly an hour long. You got a length of an episode with 2. Even though we kind of went all over the place, but
it was the most elegant I've spoken in a long time without sounding like a complete moron or having a kid yell, scream. So I
had at least 2 daddies. Luckily, it was just 2 daddies, but.
It's better than going
It's true.
It's true.
So,
you're welcome. Sucks. You're welcome, fans of this.
So we will hopefully catch you all next week, unless the next episode is that dire. I just cannot be bothered to talk about it. About next week.
We'll end up with.
If nothing happens and there's no show, we're doing a 2-in-1 again the week afterwards. That's. Unless my dog comes out here and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna act up again.
We'll just go straight to the Jared episode at the end. So.
Yeah, I don't want to pull an Andor. I'll be honest. I don't want to do that again.
It's funny that it is a verb now. Or
it's the most negative of nouns.
Season
I don't know
2,
my verbs, nouns, and all that. I just
neither do I. I'm sure that's going to get a comment. We'll discuss it in the comment.
I know what a pronoun is. That was ingrained in my brain over the last few years.
I'm at an age where I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. You know, I'm not a writer, so it doesn't matter. So
you've embraced the boomer, is what you're saying?
I've embraced it. You know, you can go ahead and say your funny comments. So we'll talk about it.
You've gone from Gen X to boomer. Like that's the.
Yep.
It's the fate we all have. No matter what generation you are, you end up being a boomer.
Yep.
They said that about politics. Everyone grows up and they go more to the right. But hey, millennials said no. Forget that. We're gonna stay on the left.
I'm leaning to the left, baby.
So yeah, we'll catch you on next week. So bye bye.
Bye bye.